Hello, and welcome to another edition of these video Q&As the Arizona Capitol Times has been doing. I'm Julia Shumway. I cover the State Senate for the Arizona Capitol Times, and I'm joined today by Murphy Bannerman, current policy director at the Election Protection Arizona and former spokeswoman for the Arizona Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee and an organizer of the Women's March. For full disclosure, Murphy and I previously worked together back in college at our student newspaper, Arizona State University's The State Press, where she was an excellent photojournalist and photo editor, and I tried to make sure that news reporters got her the information she needed to take pictures. And let's actually start there, Murphy, with your journey from being a photojournalist, someone who's out there taking pictures at rallies, to being someone who's organizing rallies such as the Women's March. How did you end up making that transition from photojournalism to organizing?
Yeah, and I do want to say I'm the deputy director with Election Protection Arizona, but with initially, I really loved photojournalism. I had always been really creative and loved, finding different ways to express myself, and ended up seeing Photo J as a good avenue between some of my passions of trying to have a better understanding of society and learning more about the world in a creative outlet. So I pursued that, throughout college, and was really awesome experience to work at ASU's newspaper and to get to know more fellow journalists and go through that process of developing my skills. And that really was my vision for where I was going in life for the most part in my early 20s. And then, I did an interview with the Arizona Republic, and then I did or not an interview, an internship with the Arizona Republic, and then a internship with Hutchinson News in Kansas. And those two internships gave me a better feel for what it's like on the inside of working at a full production newspaper. But I think ultimately, after a couple of years of struggling, which I'm sure any journalist that is listening knows the struggle of trying to find a full-time job that has good pay and all the things that you need in life. It can be really hard. And I personally could not keep up with doing more internships. So that was a difficulty for me. But, it was it's kind of a weird thing to say, but it was like a good moment in time, in a sense of, I was trying to figure out, what do I do next with my life? And we had this big moment kind of happen in our country in 2016. Where everyone was getting more involved in politics, and there was more of a push to be more active, to be more vocal, especially in 2017 post-election. So and this is really corny, I was inspired by President Obama. He got his start as a community organizer, and I just thought, well, maybe that's a good place to start and to start figuring out what I want to do next in life. And so the Women's March, weird timing, but within that time period post 2016 election, people were really active on social media talking about, what can we do next? And this was like the first opportunity to kind of jump in and just give it a shot. And that's essentially what I did. I had no past experience in organizing events or being politically active in general, but I just felt like I needed to do something. And I just figured, I'll figure it out. Like, if I have to stay up all night long and learn the whole process, I'll do it, because I want to be a part of this. I want to, make a difference. So that is, that really led to my start. And that was all a rapid experience. And the Women's March is always a really rapid experience ever since then. It's always pretty much put together in like 3 months before the march. So yeah. And then from there, I worked at Case in official community organizer position. and then went on to the Democratic Party and now Election Protection Arizona.
And then working with the Democratic Party, you came in a little while before they had a really good election year for Democrats in 2018. What is it like to be in that environment and that energy of this party that's really galvanized and ready to go elect its candidates?
It was, and it is very exciting to be a part of. Uh, Democrats in Arizona are used to being disappointed, on election night for a number of years, and so it has been a really exciting experience to be in this moment in Arizona's history where we're starting to change in our demographics, and we're able to bring in some new leaders with different perspectives. Um, and there's just a lot of energy is what I, would say. And as someone who first started off as uh, more of a volunteer slash activist in the, Democrat progressive space, I definitely know that firsthand, that there's just so many people that aren't even necessarily directly attached to the party, but are doing all this additional work that really ultimately lifts up the party and lifts up those democratic values.
And your current position with Election Protection Arizona, it is a nonpartisan coalition. It has some progressive groups that are partners, but it is nonpartisan. What made you decide to go from being so enmeshed in activism and party politics, working for the Democratic Party, to a nonpartisan role in the 2020 elections?
Yeah, I think we're at a critical point in a bit of our state's history, but also in our country's history, where it's incredibly important to make sure that everyone has access to vote and knows their rights. There has been a number of changes in election policies over the last couple of years now, or even just potential threats to voter access. And so right now, even with some of the misinformation that's kind of being spread leading up to the election in 2020, it's really critical that people have accurate information, know that our elections are secure, and that they can trust the process. So I think, that is part of, what led me to switch over to this new role. It also brings with it, just new responsibilities that were really exciting for me, to be at this position.
And what did that role look like? We're talking about a week after the primary election. What were your democracy defenders, as they're called? What were they doing out in the field on Tuesday?
Yeah, the primary was a very busy and long day, as I'm sure you know as well. We began at 5 a.m. and went until like 8 p.m. And so that was on our end, in our like internal command center, taking voter calls as they were coming in, tracking social media and seeing what issues people were reporting or questions that they had about, how do they vote, what ID to bring. For our democracy defenders, they were out in person at several voting centers, again, answering voters' questions. We also had people just kind of roaming around to poll sites throughout the valley to also just make sure, things were running smoothly. If there were lines, letting us know about that. If voters were confused, which we saw, some voters were really confused as to where to go on election day. Their traditional vote center wasn't there anymore. It was at a new location. Or when they got to that site, they weren't sure where specifically to go. So that was some of the troubleshooting that we were able to help with. As well as just answering questions that people had on social media of, again, people will tweet out like, hey, I went to try and vote and I was told I needed to bring a different form of ID. I'm confused. So those are some of the things that we saw.
And were there any issues like we've seen in previous years with reports of voter intimidation or ridiculously long lines at some precincts? Did you have any of that this year?
We had a few. With Surprise, the election center there, I believe it was at Surprise City Hall. Uh, for We're not exactly sure what the reason was specifically, but there was a very long line at certain points during the day where it got to be about 30 minutes to wait. And with COVID, especially, that's a huge concern for our team. We want to make sure that people have a healthy experience when they're going and voting. And some of the photos we were seeing were people in very close proximity. Not everyone wearing a mask, and so that is something that really sticks out for us, and something that we want to discuss with our elections officials. Uh, Beyond that. We had a couple of the folks from the Demand Daniel campaign that had some sidearms with them, and some people felt a little uncomfortable with that. They weren't doing anything as such as like trying pointed at anyone or anything like that, but some people were just concerned, and so that is something that we like to keep in mind, and again, having those conversations with elected elections officials.
And what does the work look like now for the next 80 something days between now and the election? What are you and the folks you're working with doing to protect elections in the meantime?
Yeah, it is really a sprint in some ways. Given that we are such a new organization, I've been on for 3 weeks now. In total, we've really only been up and going since June. So there's a lot to get done. We're continuously recruiting more volunteers so we can have more folks out at these poll centers monitoring the process, as well as continuing to educate the public on what their rights are. That's something that's super important to us. If we can, help Arizonans to become almost self-advocates in the process, to know their rights very clearly and to be able to speak on their own behalf when they're told something that isn't correct. That would be, a fantastic accomplishment for our organization. As well as continuing to just connect to historically disenfranchised communities, making sure that they know about these hotline numbers and that they are, able to get the help that they need.
And how do you make sure that the work that you're providing really that people do understand that this is truly nonpartisan? I think as you say on your website, you don't care who someone votes for, you just want to make sure they're able to vote. How do you make sure that people understand that? I know there's voting issues tend to be partisan even if they really shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, we don't advocate for either party. We don't advocate for dissuading anyone from voting in a particular way. If you have concerns, we were here to help. I know I saw on social media there was a concern from a voter that I'm pretty sure was GOP. I think she had like a Trump 2020 in her handle. So, but we still are here to help, and so we still sent her the hotline numbers that you can reach out to us if you have concerns, and really if you're of no party either, if you're an independent voter, we are here to help you as well. So I think just continuing to put that message out there, not getting into endorsing any particular candidate or any particular party is a key way to define us as being pro-Arizonan voters versus one particular group over the other.
Great. And where can voters go to find out more about Election Protection Arizona and information they might need to know as a voter?
Yeah, if you go to electionprotectionaz.org, that is our website.
Great, perfect. Well, I don't have any other questions for you, Murphy, unless there's anything else that you'd like to share with our readers or viewers, whoever's watching this.
Just that if you're interested in volunteering, you can sign up on our website. And if you just have general questions, you can ask us that too. So yeah, thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. Again, that was Murphy Bannerman, Deputy Director of Election Protection Arizona. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, viewers, for watching. And we will be back next week with another interview.
All right, take care.